Groover is a rhythm-based game where the player is meant to get from point A to point B, designated by a green square as the end and a orange square as the beginning. The idea behind Groover is that it is a simple puzzle game, which introduces mechanics that must be understood and utilized to get from one end of the map to the other. The entire game is based around a rhythm that counts time between beat intervals, thereby simulating the rhythm of music in a game. The player has a set amount of moves to utilize in order to get to the end of the level. There are multiple pickups that allow the player to increase the amount of moves that they have, and there are also pickups that affect the rhythm of the game, either speeding it up or slowing it down, which interact with obstacles on the map, such as teleporters that only activate when the rhythm is fast or slow. The original paper prototype was used to find out whether movement to rhythm and limiting move sets was enough to keep player attention. After playtesting this paper prototype, it became clear that more obstacles and collectibles were needed to vary the levels between each other, including the changing of the rhythm. The first version of the game was made using a pre-existing grid system. The player had a set amount of move points, and there were collectibles that allowed these move points to increase. Eventually, I moved towards a more proprietary system that I made from scratch, which moved the player across the cubes. I also added the collectibles that increased the rhythm and that activated teleporters. This was basically a difficult level that I designed that would remain for throughout the game's life, adding to this level later. There's only one route through this level with a set amount of movement points, and the player has to figure out how they have to get from point A to point B here. For the second version of the game, I added a score component that I would later get rid of because I thought it would incentivize the player to move. I also mainly focused on visual aspects of the game, such as adding a light that makes it clear when the player can move and when they can't, and raising the camera up to a position where the player can see the whole map instantly and can try and guess the correct route. In the final version of the game, I replaced the sound of the beeping with a thudding because a lot of the playtesting I did and the feedback I got said it was annoying and distracted from the main game. I also cleaned up the UI elements. I got rid of the score system because it didn't really add much to the game and it felt like it cluttered the mechanics a bit, causing players not to know what to focus on. I, I centralized the moves and the health to make it clear for the player. I also added a bunch of levels that gradually build up in complexity. So the first level teaches you movement, the second level teaches you movement based on collecting extra moves. The third level will introduce you to speeding and slowing the rhythm. The fourth level introduces you to teleporters. And then the final level is the first puzzle level I made. Now with walls to stop the player from falling off in certain parts based on the playtest feedback I got.